Hi guys. So today I'm going to be talking about the author Jane Yolen. Most of us are probably a little bit familiar with it because we just did recently read one of her books in one of our classes. So that's what kind of inspired me to learn more about her. I was really interested in like her writing style and how great of a writer she was. So I continued my research with this project. So, a little bit about Jane Yolen is that she's an American writer of science fiction, fantasy, and a multitude of children's books. She's the author or editor of more than 350 books. So, she just is always writing. From the time she started to now, she's continued writing books. I would say almost every year she has a book out. Um, she writes for books for a variety of age levels, beginning from kindergarten all the way up, working its way up all the way to like the middle school and high school age levels, which I think is really cool because she just touches upon like a variety of age ranges and just her books. You can tell that she's an amazing author because she can write for so many different levels. Um, from a young age, she was moving all around the country to different states because of her dad's job. And I think that's when her love for writing really started because in an interview I was reading, I saw that she said that when she was young, when she was old enough to read, but when she was still younger, she would write down questions and have questions prepared to ask her neighbors about current events, the place that they were living, and all like just different questions about where they were living at that time. Most of them were in the newspapers that she wrote were about New York City because that's where they were living most of the time. But she would she would write these newspapers and she would give them to her neighbors, and then her neighbors would read the newspapers and they would always want more, so she would continue writing them when she was a child. And I think that's kind of where her love for writing really started. Um, at a young age, when she was first in the industry, I thought this was really interesting when I read it. Was an editor for books, but at the time she considered herself a poet, a journalist, and a nonfiction writer. But throughout the years, as she continued writing and writing more, to her surprise, she found herself to be a children's book writer, which, as we see today, is what I will be showing you today is all of her children's books that I think really show who she is as a writer now. At 22, she sold her first book, which was Pirates and Petticoats, and the list of awards that she has won over time, the list goes on and on and on, and I will showcase a few of those that are more recent in the next few slides. Um, One last thing to note is that she writes across all genres, breaking down barriers and allowing children to connect to different books they're reading and the lessons that go along with them. So next we're going to look at Jane Yolen's most recent awards, like I just said. The most recent is from 2021. She won the Best Books from Bank Street Award. In 2019, she won the Anne Izard Storytelling Award. She also won the Massachusetts Book Award and the Golden Kite Award, Society of Children's Book Writers. Excuse me. In 2018, she won the World Fantasy Award, and in 2017, she also won the Anne Izard Storytelling Award. And then I just wanted to also include Jane Yolen's website because I think it's really interesting. On her homepage, she has a variety of books, like different books, just different little summaries about different little things. And then if you go to her About tab, you can see biographies about her, her awards. That's kind of where I found all the information about her awards and how she became to be a writer. She likes to talk about how her experience and how she became to be a writer. Then if you go to the books tab, you can see all the different books that she's written. And another really cool thing that this website has that I found interesting was under resources, there's a tab for teachers where teachers can look and see how to incorporate the books into their lessons. Under news, there is news about Jane Yolen, any new things that she has put out and like how her books relate to that. And under contact, you could actually like she has her email, she has her postcard, like she has information so you can contact her, which I think is really cool. I think it would be cool to do a class lesson where you're reading some of her books and then sending her something in the mail saying like how the books have impacted you. I think that would be really cool. So, what is Jane Yolen's writing style? In an article from the Huffington Post states that she says, I write to satisfy the story or poem or piece of fascinating research that speaks to me. So what I took that to mean was she writes from what fascinates her because she thinks what fascinates her will fascinate other people. And she tries to make it as appealing as possible for the readers and the learners to really get engaged in the text. So these are the books that I chose to look deeper into. The books that I chose to look more into, there's The Emperor and the Kite, Interrupting Cow, Bear Outside, Grumbles from the Town, Owl Moon, Crow Not Crow, Emily Writes, and How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight. They all have different writing styles throughout each book, and each book has a different topic and a different way about it, but I just really liked seeing like how she uses the literary elements. She uses a lot of the same literary elements in all of her books, but they're also so different because there's so many different stories. So to break it down a little bit, the literary devices that she uses in her stories, in these stories that I picked, are rhyme, similes and metaphors, imagery, repetition, and personification. I really saw a lot of rhyming in some of her books that she has, including Grumbles from the Town, Emily Writes, and How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight. I put a few quotes here that just show, let me move myself, that just show how she rhymes, even if it's not like a complete story filled with rhyming. Like in Emily Writes, it's about Emily, a young girl who's writing her own poem. So Emily herself is writing a rhyme, not Jane. Jane Yolen is, but she has the character writing the rhyme, not just reading the rhyme. Similes and metaphors, I feel they are present throughout almost every book that I have in my library here. But these are just a few that I decided to pick out just to show that she makes a set like a what she's describing seems so elegant when she talks about it because she uses a simile or a metaphor rather than just saying something plainly the way it is. She makes it seem more elegant and more engaging for the students to read about. Imagery, I'm a big fan of the imagery that she uses throughout all of her books. She makes it so easy for the readers to create an image in their mind because she describes it so well for them on the paper that they're reading. It's not that students have to create it themselves. They can just imagine exactly what she's saying in their own minds. There's no loose ends where children can get confused really. Um, she uses repetition in both Interrupting Cow and Bear Outside. And Interrupting Cow, it's more of a lighthearted, humorous book where the cow is continuously telling the same joke. But in Bear Outside, it's a little different because throughout the story, the young girl like continuously discusses where she wears her bear and like different ways she uses it. So it's kind of just two different stories, but the same idea of repetition and like trying to engrave that into the reader's brain. And like I said, in Bear Outside, she's talking about different ways to wear her bear, and the bear personifies something in the book, which I will not spoil. But a quote from that book is, I wear my bear on the outside. It's like wearing a suit of armor. So some of the writing traits that I see within Jane Yolen's book, I feel like I see all 6 writing traits, but I really wanted to focus on word choice, organization, and sentence fluency. The word choice that Jane Yolen chooses to use within the different books is so rich and helps the readers better visualize and understand what the characters in the text are experiencing and feeling. She just does a really good job of letting the reader get into the mind of the writer and how that the characters are feeling within the book. Um, Organization although all the books are organized differently, they follow a sequence from beginning, middle, and end, which helps the reader better understand the meaning of the story itself. And sentence fluency, her sentences are just very easy and fluent to understand. It goes from one idea to the next and doesn't with proper grammar, is easy, which could be used in a lesson, her grammar to show because she uses a lot of dialogue in her um older texts. So I feel like sentence fluency is shown in those and can be used as a good lesson for an older grade level, such as third or fourth grade. So my synthesis about Jane Yolen's books is that she writes across a variety of genres using a multitude of literary devices and writing trades to draw the reader in. She also writes her books for a variety of age ranges, which allows her children of all ages to connect with her stories. And later on in my presentation, I talk more about the different literary devices and grade levels that I think each text should is good for. And I overall really do think Jane Yolen's a great author to use for a mentor text. She has, like I said, she can go across all different genres, all different literary elements, and writing traits. So just think she's a spectacular author that everyone should give a try when they get the chance. And yeah, that is my mentor author presentation. Thanks for listening.